Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Jamie or Jaime Ramos. You may remember him from Twitter. He was around for a while. He was on TikTok for a while. He kind of dropped off or started focusing on business. So, in this conversation, we're going to be catching up with Jaime. We're also going to be talking about getting Spanish citizenship by descent, which he recently got. We're going to talk about how he makes money online as a Mexican living in Mexico, running his own businesses. And we'll also talk about Monterrey, Mexico, and kind of get that insider scoop, sort of a city guide to Monterrey, Mexico. And we'll see what else comes up over the course of the conversation. This is the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Jaime, Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you, Vance, for having me here. It's been a pleasure and been a while the last time since we spoke.
Yeah, man, you look older now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely older, like 2 years older, and aging fast.
Yeah, so Jaime and me, we met up in Portugal, basically like right around exactly 2 years ago. And you're a younger guy. How old are you now?
I am right now 24.
You're 24, so you're 22 at the
Yeah,
time. The baby face is wearing off.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And you've always been sort of tangentially related to the digital nomad scene. You know, you were building a bit of a brand on TikTok and Twitter, or at least giving it a go and connecting with people. And for a while, like on all the different Mexico themes, you were kind of like really in the conversation. Seems like you kind of dropped off to just sort of focus on running your businesses, and I don't blame you. You know, do what makes money and not be distracted. So maybe you could just kind of catch me up on what you've been working on recently.
Yeah, so when I was on Twitter, I mean, I was pretty active on Twitter in the space because I was traveling around Mexico and then Latin America. So you start doing stuff and sharing locations and just participating like in the sphere. And yeah, I got like a pretty good engagement with those tweets. I'm also a content creator, so I think maybe it's part of that. Like that part of that helped it.
Hmm.
And well, I was traveling in Latin America. It's when I was like having this peak on my business. So essentially, like my story is that I started doing online businesses thanks to Twitter. Like all the info that the Americans and the Europeans share there, and I started like buying the courses and like implementing all the stuff that people mentioned there. And when I started having success with my business, I also was looking at what other people were doing, like on Twitter, and they were like traveling and shit like that. So that's how I stumbled upon digital nomading. And yeah, I was like, I don't know, man. Like I was, for example, in Argentina because people were like, "Oh, like Argentina is a good place," blah blah, and I like it Argentina, and I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, like let's go there." Then when I went to Portugal, is because everyone was talking about Lisbon at that time. I
Hmm.
mean, they still do, but right now it's very. I think it kind of fell off, and yeah, so essentially, like this time that we haven't spoken, I was going like how do you say it? Like on rehabilitation. Like I'm now living on one city. I am no longer traveling around because it's cool when you are a digital nomad. I think it's a cool phase, especially when you start growing a business online or you have like a remote work or something like that. But it comes a time when you have to settle down in a place because it's just too much movement, like going from city to city and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been doing these last 2 years essentially. I mean, I've been living in Mexico City and Monterrey, but for me, it's like the same shit. It's not very different, um, you know. But yeah, it's that.
Okay. And you said when you were traveling, that was the peak of your business. And I think I remember talking to you about how you were kind of feeling distracted when you were traveling, and maybe the business, the revenue maybe dropped a little bit. I'm just guessing here. And you maybe felt like you had to build it back up again.
No, I mean it did fail a bit, but I think it fell down when I came back to Mexico, because when I was traveling, I was doing like a bunch of things and it was working. Right now, I'm again in another peak, so it's cool. But yeah, you have to focus. Essentially, I mean, you can work and travel. There's no problem with that, but it comes a time when it has like diminishing returns. I mean, at least in my opinion. So unless you're staying in a city for more than 3 months, you are absolutely getting distracted by girls or by social life or by just exploring random cities.
Hmm. And so, why did you stop tweeting?
I don't know, man. Like I didn't want to to create that much content on Twitter. I started growing fastly on TikTok, and right now I have like 113k thousand followers, something like that. And I've been monetizing my Twitter, my TikTok account and my YouTube. So yeah, it was like, yeah, I should focus more on these platforms that I'm actually monetizing than Twitter that is just for fun.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Are we going to see a return to Twitter at some point?
Yeah, probably. I have brief returns, especially when I'm traveling, but yeah, I rather create content on other platforms, man. Like I'm building off my Spanish audience, and right now I'm doing pretty good there. So yeah, it's no reason to to move there, to move back to Twitter.
Okay, cool. And for the audience context, you also went to Paraguay as well. And I remember you had some TikTok bangers from Paraguay, and we're kind of getting some engagement there as well.
Yeah, yeah, I got pretty famous in Paraguay. I think it was my first experience, like going viral. I mean, going viral in a sense that people recognize you on the street, each time you go out at a bar or something like that. I even got featured in national news, like in the two biggest newspaper in Paraguay. One is La Nación, and the other one I remember the name, but I have like the articles there. And yeah, it's pretty wild to me because I I don't know, man. Like just going to fame from like a few hours. It's crazy because I did the video and I went to sleep and then I woke up and I was like going viral. It was going crazy. It was a surreal experience, to be honest. Like girls throwing themselves at you, guys wanted to invite you at cool events, just going everywhere and people recognizing you. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. By the way, you can just leave you don't have to touch the mic, just like leave it kind of where it is.
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
remind me, dude, are you from Monterrey originally, or are you from somewhere else in Mexico?
No, Monterrey, Mexico.
You're from Monterrey. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I guess let's jump into a little bit of a like quick guide to Monterrey. You've been mobile. You went to different places: Portugal, Spain. You got the Spanish citizenship, which we'll come back to because I do want to hear about that. You went to Paraguay, Argentina, Colombia, probably some other places. What made you decide, of all places, to continue to base up in Monterrey?
Well, Monterrey, it's for me, in my opinion, it's a great city. It's one of the best, if not the best, city to live in Mexico.
Ooh.
And it's also like the top city to do business in Latin America. I mean, probably Sao Paulo. It's like a good place as well, but I haven't been to Sao Paulo. I think it may be the only city that can contest with Monterrey. But if you've never been here, you will notice Monterrey is a very rich city, like very rich for international standards, not just for Latin American standards. And it's like an epicenter of everything here. You have like a lot of industry, you have a lot of influencers here, you have a lot of business content creators here, you have the best politicians. So I don't know what's the comparison that we can make. It's sort of like the whole state. It's kind of like Texas in a sense, or Florida, that is just
Hmm.
like hauling all the business and the opportunities right now. For example, in our states, here is the same, and it has a pretty good standard of living. Like we have mountains, you can go hiking, you can go to rivers, you can go to very luxury places here. So it has everything and it's very safe as well. So I think
And
I yeah.
is your business at all tied to Monterrey, or is it like pretty much all online?
It's half online right now, and the other half is tied to Monterrey. The other half is because I'm getting into real estate, and also Monterrey has a pretty rapid growing real estate scene. So yeah, it's like half and half.
Okay, cool. And I remember, kind of forget what you were doing, but it was something related to social media, like a social media agency or something, right? Or how does like I'm sure people are just curious because as a Mexican who grew up in Mexico, but you're not obviously working a normal Mexican job. You're kind of making money online based on what you learned on Twitter, and you know, for the Americans, this could kind of show them that anyone can do it, right? Like, so what are you kind of doing, or what have you found that kind of works for making money online?
Well, I started doing copywriting, then I went into e-commerce, and I started working in the industry here in Mexico, and I got pretty consolidated here, like with the clients and with the brands and everything, because it is a growing space. And right now, I'm moving to industries. Like one is real estate, the other being info products, and yeah, like I mean, I think the a good opportunity here in Latin America is that it's an emerging market. So there's a lot of stuff that is not being tried here, to say like that. And in the case of Mexico, Mexico is a really good place to do business. For example, if you set up a business in, I don't know, like Paraguay, I don't think you will earn that much money. But in Mexico, there's a lot of money to make. A lot of money. It's like Brazil. So if you can just do apply the things that are doing in the United States or Europe here, you can do pretty well. Actually, there's a lot of I mean, I start to notice that there's a lot of founders here that are from other places in the world because they see the opportunities that are not nowhere else.
Hmm. And just so I understand, so you did copywriting and then e-commerce, and now what is it that you found that actually works? Like, what do you do?
What I well, I started. I, it's like in the info product space is cool because you have like a lot of margins and you can do a lot of things with this. You can couple like the digital products with physical products, and you can have a pretty solid business, solidified business. So that's like the opportunity I'm seeing right now. Maybe it's more biased because like I have a personal brand. I know people that have personal brands. I know how to connect like everything to an e-commerce. So I guess it's more like a personal thing, that you have to discover by your own. I mean, of course, people tell you or sell you courses or whatever, on what business model you can make, but I think essentially you have to try a bunch of things and find like where you can have the most opportunity, to do business. So that's what I did essentially.
Okay. And are you doing info products for the English speaking market or the Spanish speaking market?
Not Spanish speaking. Everything that I do is Spanish speaking. I maybe learn from the English speakers because, as I say, the market is so advanced there that there's a lot of new concepts that we don't have here. But I apply everything to the Spanish market, where it's e-commerce, where it's info products, whatever.
And just to get an idea, like, is it like fitness info products? Is it business info products? Like, what's kind of the general sector or niche?
It's business, 100%.
Okay. So, like, teaching, I don't know, like a copywriting course or something like that for the Spanish speaking market.
Kind of like that, but yeah, it's essentially like online businesses. I mean, how to do online business, and the other one is like real estate, content creation, all that stuff.
Okay, cool. And I'm actually genuinely curious about this. So you think that there's like how much are Spanish speakers actually paying for info products? Like will they pay $500 for an info product? Will they pay multiple thousands of dollars for, a mentorship, entre comillas, or, is there enough purchasing power there?
Yeah, yeah, there's enough purchasing power, especially here in Mexico. As I told you, like if you go to, I don't know, Colombia or something like that, of course it's going to be lower. But here in Mexico, people are paying pretty decent bucks for courses or mentorships. I think it mainly depends on the industry. So, for example, real estate, like those guys pay a lot for info products. Like I'm talking about 4K mentorships and shit like that, or like $500 for a course, stuff like that, you know. And for example, if you go to e-commerce, I think the ticket is lower. I think the main issue with the info space here in Latin America is that they are very like traditional. I mean, they are still traditional in a way that if it's like an online business thing, they may be not very willing to pay for a product, you know, like a coaching or a book or whatever. But if it's like teaching you a traditional business model, for example, real estate, they are willing to pay a shit ton for it. So yeah, I think like that's the main difference.
Okay, cool. So you're finding that when it comes to maybe like a real estate info product or mentorship, like a sophisticated Mexican buyer is willing to pay, 10,000 pesos up to 40, 50,000 pesos.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
And so you do all kind of courses or info products that focus on the male market, like for men.
yeah. I haven't worked that much with female. I mean, for example, my buyers, most of them are male, but I mean, it's pretty like if it's someone, if you are working with a female influencer, her buyers are going to be females. So yeah,
Yeah,
it
of
really
course,
just
of
depends.
course.
But there's a lot of, I mean, like there's a lot of women here that buy a shit ton of products. Like I'm genuinely jealous about the women that are like influencers. They sell a lot here. I think they buy way more than the male counterparts.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. Well, that's good to know that it's there's stuff going on. Probably don't need to dive in too much deeper than that, but it's just good to hear from someone that there's money to be made in the Spanish speaking market.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess hard pivot then, or semi hard pivot. I really want to make sure we talk about the Spanish citizenship thing because when we met up in Portugal, you were spending time in Galicia or Galicia.
yep.
How do you pronounce it? What's the right pronunciation?
It's Galicia.
Galicia. Okay, Galicia. And you were visiting your grandparents, but I don't think you had your Spanish passport at that time.
No, I didn't have it.
So what's the process been like? You did it through the Ley de Nietos.
Um, I mean, there's different laws. I guess I don't know what's that law, the special law that you mentioned. What I used was the Ley de Memoria Democrática, which means like every person. I mean, if your grandfather or whatever was, they flee from Spain during the Civil War or do it to the Civil War, you have access to the citizenship. So that's what I did. Um, there's a lot of like I think there's two main laws that people get their citizenship in Spain. One being the if you are a descendant of the Sephardic Jews that were expelled from Spain, and the
Hmm.
other one is this one, I believe. I think they are the easiest to get.
Okay, so the one you did is when was the Civil War? That was the Franco stuff, or was
Yeah,
that
it was
before?
like yeah, it's Franco. It's
Okay,
like 1936, 35 to like 1970. I mean, the war was over before end of World War, I believe, but the law, as far as I know, compromises all the Franco regime. You know, so if your grandfather flee from I don't know from the 60s or he emigrated, you can say that he fled, and yeah, you have your passport essentially. Yeah, because they are like they're just using it as an excuse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. And have you put it to use at all?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually. It's been a long process. The embassies are full and the bureaucracy takes long. So yeah, I haven't been used it, but next year for sure.
And how long did you have to wait after you submitted your application? So you submitted all the documents, they accepted the documents, they say, looks good, we're going to process it now. How long did that processing take?
Like 9 months, 10 months, took a while.
Okay, not horrible.
Yeah, not horrible. Yeah, it was pretty fast. I mean, in my case, like my grandfather is alive, so I think it helped. We had all his papers, and he owns real estate there in Galicia. I mean, we have a house and everything. So yeah, it doesn't like it's not. It was not difficult for me at least. Maybe if you have like if you don't have your papers right or you don't have any living, um, you know, uh, familiars or whatever it's called in English, or stayed in Spain, then yeah, it's probably going to take longer.
Okay, makes sense. And did you actually submit like the deed of the house and everything as part of the application?
No, no, they didn't ask me. They just asked me like all the papers for my grandfather. I guess like they just review it in their database or whatever. But of course,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mentioned
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Okay, birth certificate, all the normal stuff.
yeah,
Cool. You got a flag there in your hand? What was that?
yeah. It's the Galicia flag.
We're not recording video. We're on audio only. But wait, I want to
Oh,
see it. I want to see
oh,
it. I want to see it. I need
yeah,
to get familiar with this here. Okay, cool. I like it.
yeah. It's a nice flag.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still. Uh, I still have things going on in Europe, so maybe we'll catch you out there.
Yeah,
If not in Mexico.
yeah. I'm going next year. I highly recommend going to Galicia as well. I think Monterrey and Galicia are very underrated. I explained it why in Monterrey. I think there's guys. No, there's a few guys on Twitter that has been to Monterrey, but they haven't spoken that much about it. One of them being Angel de Venganza. Probably some of you guys know it. And for example, in the case of Galicia, Galicia is like, I mean, on summer it's very cool. On winter it's fucking cold, so probably not going to like it. But they have like amazing beaches. I'm talking like Cancun beaches in Europe, and you have like a forest behind those beaches. So it's pretty decent. It's pretty good. They have like the best seafood there in Spain, and I think it's a very underrated place in Spain. Like usually people just go to Madrid and Barcelona, and that's it. Maybe like south of Spain, but nah.
Yeah, because I think you were. I remember at one point on Twitter you were raving about Vibo, right? Was it Vibo
Yeah,
that you
Vigo.
were?
Yeah, Vigo is the top city, I think.
Because there's
At least
Vibo and there's the inland city, or they. I gotta look it up. I gotta look it up.
Orense. Well, I mean, I will recommend Vigo is for like the beach is the highlight of Vigo. It's a very
Hmm.
cool city because of that, but it's not a very beautiful city in that sense. For example, Santiago de Compostela, it's very beautiful, but it's an
Hmm.
inland city. And La Coruña, which is like the
La
capital,
Coruña. Yeah, that's
I
what I was
mean the
thinking.
second capital, something like that. I have been told that it's a very beautiful city, but I never been there, and it has like both of best words. Like it's very beautiful, and also it has its beaches.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Okay, so Vigo you liked.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm. They do say that the weather kind of sucks in the winter and maybe even the fall. Like it's very summer specific.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going in autumn, you're going to freeze. Yeah, it's like Portugal. Like Portugal has a very shitty climate. Climate. You have to
I
go in
mean,
summer, otherwise.
I mean, Lisbon wasn't too bad. Lisbon's not too bad. I think Porto's different.
Yeah, Porto is more similar to Porto. Actually, Porto used to be part of Galicia, so it's like the same climate.
For the audience, I remember I went out to dinner with Jaime and someone else. Who else was
It
that?
was Joy.
And Joey, yeah, Joey Langenbrunner, right?
Yeah.
So I just recorded a new episode with him like this week. It's not out yet, but it'll probably come out right before this one. So good full circle thing there. And we
Yeah.
go out to dinner, and my girlfriend is like trying to speak English with the waiters in Lisbon. She's like, "Can I have blah blah blah?" like, and then you just start speaking just straight Spanish to the waiters, like sin vergüenza. You're like, I'm not even gonna try to speak Portuguese or English. Like, just speak them right in Spanish. Like, donde está el baño? And they just, and it was fine. It was fine. They were,
Yeah.
it was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I realized in Porto that people there spoke a lot of Spanish, and it's a very similar language. So I was just like mixing. I mean, I was for 3 weeks in Galicia, so Galician it's very similar to Portuguese,
Yeah.
and it's very similar as well to Spanish. So I was just like mumbling my way into it. Like I was speaking some Galician and Portuguese and Spanish and whatever it took to just get trying to practice a little bit. That's something that I have to do like next year when I'm there, like learn more Galician, because it's impossible to learn, because it's not like a very spoken language. It's not like Portuguese, that you have all these songs and all these books and everything written in Portuguese. But yeah, the languages are very similar, very very similar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for the audience, just you could just speak Spanish in Lisbon, and they're gonna get it. I think you were literally you were literally speaking Spanish with the bouncers at the nightclub. You, I,
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like I was just, as I was saying, like I was just mumbling my words into everything.
dude, you
Um,
weren't even trying to say like cerveja or anything. You're just like cerveza porfa, like just like as if you're in Mexico. Like,
yeah, yeah. Also because like I don't know, man. Like we have some Spanish pride, so I was like, nah, I'm not going to speak Portuguese here.
no, I kind of respected it because obviously they'll understand, and it's like obviously you're not rapport seeking, right? Like you're not trying to like, I don't know how to say it another way. You're not trying to seek rapport. You're not trying to like adapt to their way of doing things. You're just kind of like, yep, fuck it. Like I'm gonna be me, and they'll understand anyway. So good enough.
Yeah, yeah. Portugal is cool. I don't know how to see it these days, but I guess like people have to. You have to learn a second language. I think it's a very useful skill. The issue that I have with a lot of the digital nomads that I have met is that they don't know a single fucking word of Spanish. I mean, not everyone. Like most of them, actually, that they have become my friends, they know Spanish very well. But you have to learn still Spanish. I think it's the best language, especially if you already speak English. It's just like, man, it's very similar. Like there's very poor people here in Mexico that learn Spanish, that learn English by their own. Like, and you can learn Spanish, bro. Like, don't worry about it, and you will have access to nearly all America. So, like the continent. So, yeah.
Yep. Guys, there'll be a link in the description to Language Blend, longtime sponsor of my Latin Life podcast. You get a week of free Spanish lessons, and we recommend that. Getting lessons really really helps. Speaking of Galician, though, like, would you could just buy some books on Amazon, no? Probably, and kind of get it going a little bit.
Well, I haven't seen it. I mean, I haven't looked for it in Amazon. But I mean, in my opinion, for example, when I learned English in kinder here in Mexico, and in my school and middle school and primary or whatever it's called, like the first levels of private education. And I started picking up English when I started to listen to music in English and play video games in English and having everything on my computer and my cell phone in English. And when I started working at hotels, high-end hotels here in Monterrey, that's when I before I started doing my business. I was the only one. Also, I mean, I was nearly the only one in all the jobs that I have and that I had. Sorry, that spoke English. So that's how I learn English. So in my opinion, for example, if you want to learn a language, and that's what I try to apply myself, I have to listen to songs. I have to put my phone in Galicia, and I have to, like put all those stuff, like all the environment of that language. And Galician, it's not, for example, it's not on iPhone. If you put your setting on that language, it's not going to appear. And the music, it's very few songs that you can listen to that are like also cool. And yeah, like I don't think you can learn a language with books, to be honest. Like I feel you need to either live in a place, or you have to fabricate all your environment around that language. I don't know what's your take on that.
I think books are a necessary input. They just can't be the only input. But I think it's definitely better than nothing. And I don't know how many Galician TV series there are in this kind of thing. So at least books, it's like something you can kind of flip through 5 minutes a day while you're drinking coffee, and at least just kind of get accustomed to things and be like, oh, they say, they write things this way, or and that kind of thing. And you would definitely learn stuff, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I follow a few social media accounts, and that's it. But I will look into books to see if I find something. But yeah, there's a lot of shows in Galician. Like there's a lot of like a whole network of shows there. It's a
Is
good
there?
thing that I like about Spain. People hate on the Catalans, for example, because they have like their own shows and their own languages and all that.
Hmm.
And I really like that. Like I don't believe that countries should be this great like state nation, well, that you only speak like one language. Like if there's different ethnic groups, um, all those people should have their own costumes and their own language.
Yeah, I think we need to keep some of this stuff alive, especially as seems like they're trying to destroy it these days with all the immigrants and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Lately I've been more like aware of this. I mean, of course I've been aware of that, but there's a very interesting tendency that not a lot of Americans realize. I think because they are not on our cultural sphere. But we also have like these problems as Latin Americans, especially as a people of European descent. Um, like when Latin Americans countries got independent,
Hmm.
they were essentially like, how do you say it, like continuing the legacy of European powers, like of the Spanish Empire or the Portuguese Empire or the United Kingdom or whatever. In the case, even in Louisiana, like the French Creoles, all of those people were like, they were like creating their own culture that was founded in America but had like European, how do you say it, like European heritage.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bitrefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holtze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles, so no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible.
What's happening now is that we are living, at least here in Latin America. I mean, in the world, we're living like a process of we call it favelization, which is like favela in Brazil, and they are getting rid of everything that is of European heritage here in Mexico, for example. I mean, in every Latin American country, but here in Mexico is like is that shit. So yeah, we are not having, for example, we are not dressing as we used to dress. We are not listening to the music that we used to, and we are just like it's now like it's like being a downgrade. It's like being downgraded in a cultural way that few people can really notice because not a lot of Latin Americans even realize it. But we are just converting on a big fucking favela, you know? Like there's not a lot of difference. It's I mean the European heritage and all the Western values are going to die here as well. Like it's not going to be like a safe haven as much of Americans or Europeans think. I don't know
In
if it
what
makes sense.
way in what way are they destroying European culture in Mexico?
So, for example, they are. What example can I give? So, for example, the 12th of October, it's a very recent one. 12th of October, it's Dia de la Raza. In whole Latin America, it used to be that. So, it was like a day to commemorate like the Spanish heritage that they have here and the merging of all the Hispanic culture here in Latin America, you know, like whether you are of Asian, African, or Native American descent. So, what are the governments now doing? The governments now are doing Indigenous Day, some shit like that. So instead of commemorating the Spanish, you know, getting into America and growing all these countries from zero, they are commemorating like the indigenous people.
Mm.
And yeah, so that way like they are erasing all these European and all this Western heritage here in America, in Latin America. And also like you can see in all the cities, man, like for example Buenos Aires used to be a very criollo, it's the term, criollo city, which is like Europeans born in Latin America, for those that you don't know.
Mhm.
And now Buenos Aires is like they call it Congo Urbano, which means like Congo, you know, like the country, the African country, because they are literally filling Buenos Aires with with people from Bolivia and even people from Africa, like from Senegal and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been a pretty interesting process to see here in Latin America.
Mhm. Yeah, you saw the Scheinbaum apology, asking Spain to apologize.
Yeah, yeah, that's like another one. Like I'm telling you, like they are getting rid of everything that was, you know, they want us to. Latin America is going to the left, like culturally left. We are going through to that process right now, so it's going to be a pretty interesting thing to see.
Like basically following the path of the US in terms of like woke stuff, or what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah, like that. Yeah, we are having, as I'm saying, like we are having our own cultural problems, our own ethnic problems, um, very similar to the West, to, for example, the United States or to Europe, but in our own ways. I don't know if it makes sense. So,
Hmm.
for example, the thing that I said about Argentina, or for example, Chile. Chile used to be a very developed country, in a country that was mainly run by, um,
Europeans.
yeah, by Europeans. And right now, Chile is full of Asians because they imported. I don't know how the fuck they get like Asians to Chile, but a lot of refugees
Like
from
I think I
Haiti.
saw 300,000 Haitians imported to Chile in the past
Yeah,
couple of years.
yeah, and you add that with the all the Bolivians and all the Venezuelans, and you have a demographic crisis in Chile right now. So
Mhm.
as I was saying, like Americans don't realize that much that we're getting fucked here as well. So in our way, in our with our demographics, it's getting pretty wild.
Yeah, people probably don't realize that you can claim asylum in Mexico too. I guess maybe not that many people are doing it when you can just claim asylum in the US and that's fully allowed. But I was just in the INM office, the migrations office in Mexico this past week. And there's like a poster on the wall in both English and Spanish. And it says, like, are you afraid of going home to your home country? Claim asylum now. Here's the website. Here's the form. Here's the QR code, all that stuff. And you can just claim asylum and stay in Mexico.
Yeah, yeah, that's also like another problem that I forgot to mention. For example, here in Monterrey, um, Monterrey used to be like a northern city, you know. In I mean, we are of course culturally norteño, as we say it here, but it's getting a bit diluted because there's a lot of people that being coming here from the south and from the center of Mexico, and lot of Asians as well. I don't know how the fuck they are so much about them, but yeah, there's been like a lot of refugees from IT and from Central America that if they don't get to the United States, they get here. You know, they stay here.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting because, for example, Americans complain about the caravans, you know, that are going to the United States. But if they don't cross the border, they are going to stay here. So of course, like the government here is going to let them all in, and just to give them free pass so they can just get away from Mexico, you know. And also, like for example, all the cities that are like the most violent cities in Mexico, I mean especially on the border, those are not cities that were like northern Mexican, to say it that way. They were cities made up of migrants that come from the south and from Central America. So a lot of them don't cross to the United States and they stay at those border cities, and they are like pretty violent, and it has like their own downsides, you know. So yeah, like we have our own problems here with the migrants and everything like that, especially since
Mhm.
now Mexico is being a pretty good country, you know, economy wise at least. We're getting a lot of even like the Chinese are coming here
Yeah.
to set up business or even or cross to the US.
Yeah. I didn't even consider that. So maybe a lot of the cartels along the border, the members aren't even from the northern states. They're like dudes from, Chiapas and Oaxaca and stuff like that. And then they join the northern cartels. And then they're like
Yeah.
operating up near the border.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know like the exact numbers, but of course, like if a guy comes from nothing and they try to cross and they don't cross, they usually get. I mean, not usually, but lots of them get into the cartels and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
I'll,
yeah,
I'll
it's a
switch it
big
up on you
problem.
because I don't want to get you in trouble either talking about this
Yeah,
stuff. But tell me a little bit about like Monterrey is one thing, and we all know it's like modern and big buildings and nightclubs and this kind of thing, and that's probably all people know about Monterrey. Tell me about like rural Nuevo Leon and the real culture of Nuevo Leon and like ranchero culture and stuff like that. Could you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, well, in northern Mexico is more of a, like a vaquero heritage. So the vaqueros are the like the cowboys of Spain, and yeah, the vaqueros. I mean, the Spanish vaqueros were the first westerns to say like that here in America, even before the cowboys. It is said actually that the cowboys from the United States were inspired by the Mexican cowboys, to say like that. So
Mm,
yeah, it's a culture around that. That's why, for example, Northern Mexico is kind of similar in a way to the country, heritage and all that stuff. And also, we have a pretty big German component to, especially in like the music. So, for example, there was a lot of German immigrants that came to Northern Mexico, and those, I don't know like the exact names of the instruments, but I think they are from Baviera, the instruments. And the Baviera instruments are evolved to what it's now the corridos in Mexico, like the northern Mexican
mm,
music, like Peso Pluma and all those guys. I like the
mhm.
late stages of it. And yeah, essentially, like the culture is like that. Mm, it's more of a like cowboy, to say like that, or country like culture. We like meat. We are we like horses. We like to work. I mean, it's very. I mean, at least in my book, it's very similar to what you can find in, for example, I don't know, like southern USA, like Texas, like the deep south, or maybe like the countryside of Argentina, the countryside of South Brazil. Like we're pretty similar in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely one of the best cultures in Latin America, in my opinion. And I think it's probably more alive in northern Mexico than it is in the southern United States at this point, in terms of like a raw, masculine cowboy culture.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more because of the music, to be honest. Like the music has been a pretty good cultural, how do you say it, like cultural spreader, to say like that. So
Hmm.
I guess like if country music became more popular in the United States, then maybe they could find the same effect.
Hmm.
And also
And tell
like
me, tell me about like the parties, or they have these events, right? I forget the word, but they have these like big cowboy parties, and everybody goes, and maybe it's like it's kind of like a rodeo, but also a party, and it's very culturally important, right?
yeah, they are called ferias, which is I don't know what's the name in English,
Like a
to be
fair,
honest. A fair, yeah.
like a state fair, sort of.
Yeah, so it's very similar. Like we have a rodeo, we have some guys mounting the bull, we have some horse like races, and people just gather to, I don't know, man, like to see all those things, and they're pretty wild. They're pretty cool. There's like a big festival. If you truly want to know like the Mexican experience, you have to go to Feria de San Marcos, which is in
The
April and May,
one
I
in
believe,
Aguascalientes.
in Aguascalientes. Yeah, and that's like the biggest fair of all Mexico.
Hmm.
I mean, if you hate banda, you are not going to do well there, But if you like those things, in Feria Aguascalientes is just like crazy, and it's very very safe. Like for example, they don't let you have what do you say, like glass bottles, so people don't
Hmm.
fight with them. There's a lot of police and army. Like it's very safe. You are not going to have any problems whatsoever.
Hmm. Yeah, it's huge. There's on our website on the Aguascalientes City Guide on mylandlife.com talks a little bit about the Feria San Marcos. But every like town has it, right? And growing up, it's like a culturally very important thing to sort of attend these things, and all the guys are like kind of flexing and But I don't know. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, they're cool. It's definitely like a part of Mexico. Like there's very different parts of Mexico. Like you have that Mexico, you have like the Fresa Mexico, you have like the Naco Mexico or Bellaco or whatever the name it is, with like the hood, to say like that in English.
Hmm.
And which other Mexico we have? I think like that's the three biggest Mexicos that we have right now. And of course like the
Fresa,
middle
hood,
ground.
and vaquero.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course like the middle ground, people that are not either of, but it's like the biggest ones.
I was just in San Luis Potosi like last week, and it was really cool. Like I really think people are sleeping on central and northern Mexico as like digital nomad destinations or places to check out in general. Like all these places like Aguascalientes, San Luis Potosi, where else? Like
Yeah,
anywhere around
it's El
there.
Bajío.
El
El
Bajío.
Bajío. Yeah. I mean, I didn't like San Luis Potosí. Um, but but yeah, like for example, Querétaro is very good. Um, I don't know, like Guadalajara, all those cities. Like there's a lot of Mexico that, but yeah, the best in Mexico is going to be Bajío and northern Mexico, hands down.
Yeah, San Luis Potosi actually isn't considered northern Mexico for the audience. It's kind of considered Bajío and then also La Huasteca, kind of like a combination of the two. But it's like similar to some extent. Um, but yeah, and then like there's even people don't realize that there's like Pueblo Mágicos in Nuevo León. Like they think it's like a brand new state or something like that. But there's actually tons of cool old small colonial towns in Nuevo León as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest features on northern states is that the pueblos are pretty interesting. Like like they have a lot of history. Some of them have a lot of money or like industry, and you can do a lot of things there. So and they are like kind of safe. Well, of course, depends on the state. For example, in Sinaloa, it's going to be a little bit harder. But for example, here in Nuevo León, like the towns are pretty cool. In Coahuila as well, in Chihuahua. So I think like one of the best things that you can do while being in any state in northern Mexico is visit the small towns.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
will get a
absolutely.
surprise.
I was talking to a guy who lives in hopefully I'm getting the name of this town right. I think it's General Zaragoza.
Oh, General Santa Rosa. Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
Uh, I think like a few years ago, but like a few years ago. But
It's
it's
like
pretty
a
cool.
cool, yeah, it's like a cool little town. It just got designated a Pueblo Mágico, and it's like kind of in the middle of nowhere. But he's like, dude, I loved going there. It's like awesome with the family, and you do a street view, and it like actually looks really quite nice. Even mountains, like the buildings are in pretty good shape, colonial vibes, and like it's not near like any city. Basically, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So people could put General Zaragoza on their maps, and it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, as I was telling you, like northern Mexico has a really good towns, and you will be surprised about what you find there. Like even the people are cool. So I think that's not a thing that you can find, for example, in central Mexico or southern Mexico. Like it's very different. But in northern Mexico, you can have a pretty decent life there. There are cities close to Monterrey that have a lot of things going on.
Switching up the topic a little bit, kind of maybe like one of the last topics before we wrap up. But I'm curious, as an entrepreneur living in Mexico, are you open about how much money you make, or is it weird because maybe you're making a lot more money than your peers? I don't even know how much you make, honestly, but or like, you know what I mean? Can you find other entrepreneurs and sort of a circle of like-minded people with similar mindset, or do you kind of feel like you're a little bit alone? Or tell me a little bit about kind of what it's like being someone who sort of makes online but like lives in a city.
Well, I mean, if in an online business sense, it's pretty lonely, to be honest. Like the people that I have found that do online business here in Mexico, uh, I met them on tour and then in person. If you are speaking about like a business sense on a more wide, uh, in a more wide way to say like that, there's a lot of people doing business here in Mexico. Like a lot of people, as I was telling you, like Mexico is a very rich country, and there's a lot of things going on, and especially in Monterrey. As I was saying, like in the beginning, Monterrey is like the best city to do business in Mexico. You will find a lot of people that are doing very cool shit, and they have very big businesses that like they earn way more than most Americans. That even they have that business owners in America, because they come from like either generational wealth, or they have like their own thing that they build off from zero. For example, I recently heard that the biggest egg producer in the world is in Mexico. Is in San Juan de los Lagos, like the biggest egg producer. Like that guy has like 50% of world production, something like that, of eggs in the world. So yeah, you will not feel alone here. Like I mean, in that way, I don't openly talk about my income levels, of course, because it's I mean it's more of a cultural thing. Because in Monterrey we are very like how do you say it, like reserved in that way. I of course only speak it with friends, and I don't flex things and all that stuff. But I don't do it because I don't like it. I find it like tacky. The culture here is like that. The culture here is like you work, you have your family, and you pray, and that's it, man. Like you are not going to flex things like in other, for example, states in Mexico. But there's definitely like lots of people here that flex a lot of shit, and nothing happens to them because it's not. I mean, a lot, as I was saying, like lots of people have money here in Mexico, so like they don't care, you know. For example, in Sinaloa, like they have big trucks and all that stuff, and they live well. Like they don't have to worry about being, I mean, I don't know the situation right now, but what I'm saying is that, yeah, you can have money and you can flex things, and nothing will happen to you. At least in unless you're living like a war zone, like that's different.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think it's important for people to realize that there are a lot of people in Mexico making a lot more than 100K a year. It's not like there are people in Mexico making U.S. levels of money and beyond.
Yeah, we actually earn like the average people. I think it may be something controversial, but I think a lot of people here earn more money than the average US people. I mean, the average American or the average European, because we have pretty decent wages here, and we have low taxes, and we have low expenses. So there's even jobs that they pay more in Mexico City than what they pay in Europe.
Yeah,
And
dude, in Spain they make like no money now. Like the GDP per capita is higher in Nuevo Leon than it is in like half of Spain, than it is in Andalusia or something like that.
yeah, yeah, I was about to say that like in Mexico, we earn more money now than Europeans, than the average European. Like, I have met the Europeans that are traveling here, like they go in exchange or something like that, and for me, like they are broke, like essentially because they live like in a tiny apartment with they sleep with brothers and all that, and things that you don't hear here in Mexico unless you are like lower middle class. So I think the things are switching up in that sense. Like we Latin Americans, especially, I think especially Mexicans, to be honest, like especially from Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, um, are having more money and more opportunities than people from Europe and other
Yeah,
parts, like other developed parts.
definitely makes sense. And when
Yeah.
you say it's easy to make money in Monterrey, what does that mean? Does that mean like people are willing to sign contracts and they're willing to do deals, or what makes it easy?
I think in one way, if you want to be an employee, you are going to be paid more here than, for example, if you work in San Luis Potosí or something like that. And if you are trying to do business here, it's just a pool of people that are here. It's bigger than any other place. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's like living in Austin, Texas, for example, right now. Like a lot of us entrepreneurs are moving there and everything. So it's the same here. Like lots of entrepreneurs, lots of influencers, lots of investments from foreigners are coming down here. So it's easier to make money because you are constantly meeting people that have their own thing going on, and that you can do business together.
Okay. And it's easy to do contracts and send money to people's bank accounts and that kind of stuff and get paid and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's man, it's like any developed country. Yeah, it's no problem whatsoever. The laws are pretty. Everything is very efficient here, to be honest. Like I don't see any difference being here and being in other places.
yeah, definitely makes sense. I just like hearing it from you because I think the audience needs to hear it that it's probably easier to do business in Mexico than people probably realize. The standard of living is probably higher than people realize as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you are going to do business here, I think you have to do business either in Mexico City, Guadalajara, or Monterrey. Like stick to those three places because there's a language barrier and education barrier that you will need to cross. Otherwise, you're going to get probably like getting taken advantage of. But yeah, you can do pretty decent businesses here. Like there's a lot of people that, like most of my friends they studied abroad, whether it's like a semester, a year, the whole college, their master's degree. um, yeah, there's a lot of good human capital here in Mexico, to be honest. That's why we are growing so fast. Like, and essentially that's why I don't want to move to any other Latin American countries. Like maybe just Argentina can compare to Mexico in that way, Argentina and Brazil. But both Argentina and Brazil are tax hellholes, and I will not recommend living there for that reason if you are doing business there. But Mexico has everything: has nature, has human capital, has good tax laws. Bro, I pay like 2% of taxes of what I get paid on. So yeah, it's really good to do business here.
And kind of the related topic, I feel like I should have started the podcast with this, but maybe I guess we'll end the podcast with this. Is that people don't realize that a lot of people in Monterey simply have a way higher standard of living than people in the United States. And people in the US are kind of in denial about how low their standard of living is sometimes. And like the upper middle class in Monterey lives better than the upper middle class in a lot of the United States.
Yeah,
This is something we've talked about. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
yeah. Well, Monterrey has a very standard of living. So it's like a very clean city. No, it's not. It's very safe. Like there's no insecurity whatsoever here. And people get paid well, and there's a lot of businesses. So Monterrey has always been characterized by being like a fresh spot, to say like that, like a fresh city. So everyone fancies like people from Monterrey because of that reason. And the fame is even like international. Like I have heard Colombians talk good things about people from Monterrey because of that reason. So I think people tend to forget that there's a lot of developing areas, to say like that, no, like upper class areas in developing countries. Those areas can be way better than their average city, or even the upper classes in developed countries. So for example, here in Monterrey there's a city that is called San Pedro Garza Garcia, which is like the richest city in Latin America, like in whole Latin America. You can look that up. So yeah, we have like very good, decent standard of living. So yeah, man, like, so I was saying, like people here from Monterrey, they do very well. To be honest, people will be surprised about all the things that we have here. but it's not
Yeah.
very noted
E-
outside of
Even
Latin
even
America.
simple things like having a maid, being able to go to nice restaurants, things that most Americans can't afford anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, even like the prices here are getting pretty close to US, as far as I know. Like going out and all that stuff, like it's not cheap at all. So yeah, if you want like a cheap place, like maybe just go to Paraguay. But if you want like good places and you want to live in a luxury place that is safe, then yeah, for sure come to Monterrey and especially to San Pedro Garza Garcia.
Hmm. And good healthcare, I imagine.
Yeah, very good healthcare. Like we are having very good hospitals being built, and there's a lot of people that are coming here to just get how do you say, like the medical tourism, that they
Yep.
go to have their surgeries and all that stuff. Whether it's because, I mean, of course there's a part of them that are, for example, Mexicans or even Americans from Texas, that they want to save some money, so they come here and they get like a better bang for their buck. But there's also like lots of people that come here from other parts of Mexico because the best healthcare or the best doctors or whatever are here. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And as we get to wrapping up, I was just curious. So you said you're kind of jumping into real estate a bit, or trying to do something there. Where do you see the opportunity? Is it residential real estate? Is it commercial? Is it industrial?
Well, here in Monterrey, in I mean whole Mexico, but here in Monterrey, it's industrial real estate. Um, there's a lot of investments being made here, and even for example in San Luis Potosí, which is like 4 hours close to here, the Chinese are even like they are buying like big plots of land to have a pork farms and things like that. So I guess like I mean there's opportunity everywhere, man. Like for example in Monterrey is more industrial, I think, more industrial and residential because there's a lot of buildings being built. There's a lot of industrial opportunity because there's a lot of people investing here in Mexico. And if you just go to other states, you will find either the same thing or it's a tourist place that is getting built on. So, for example, Bacalar in Rivera Maya, it's getting now hot. So, lots of people are developing the land there. Yucatan as well, Merida, which other place? Puerto Escondido, Puerto Vallarta. I mean, things close to Puerto Vallarta because Puerto Vallarta is already pretty developed. San Carlos Sonora, it's getting pretty developing and
Mhm.
it's a very tourist place. I mean, that is not being exploited on. So you really have like great opportunities here in Mexico to invest. It's not cheap, to be honest. Mexico is expensive, especially if you want to go to the invest in something in the beach. But there's a lot of opportunity, like in whatever. That's why like the future is Mexican. You know, like we are going to have a very decent economy unless someone fucks it up or whatever, like a really big fucked up. But yeah, we are getting pretty big in the future for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree. This episode is going to come out in November, but I'm just curious, bro. Where are you going to spend Dia de Muertos? You staying in Monterrey? Is it a? Do they celebrate it in Monterrey, Dia de Muertos?
No, Dia de Muertos is more of a certain thing. So if you go to Oaxaca and Michoacan, I think those are the two states that they celebrate the most. Um, I may be in
Don't
Mexico
forget
City.
Veracruz.
Yeah, I may be in Mexico City like next week. I think it is. So it will be interesting. Of course, they are going to celebrate in Mexico City because it's the capital and they have people from all over the place.
Hmm.
But in northern Mexico, it's not that celebrated, to be honest. At least not in Monterrey.
Fair enough. You don't even do like a little altar in your house or anything?
Nah, man. To be honest, no. I have some
Wow.
selva chill, but it's
There you
more of a
go.
certain things. Like, I mean, that's something that I don't like that much about Monterrey. That we are more Americanized in that sense. So, for example, Halloween is pretty. It's celebrated here in Monterrey, for example,
Uh-huh.
which in my opinion should be, but it is what it is. But yeah,
Okay, at least you got the cempasúchil for the audience is like the orange flower that they have. Cool. Are you gonna eat tamales Do they even eat tamales in Monterrey or what?
No, it's a certain thing.
Really?
Yeah, I
Man,
mean we eat tamales, but just on Dia de la Candelaria, which is like on February. Oh, and
yeah,
on Christmas, but that's it.
yeah.
Like on very special occasions, and yeah, as I was saying, like there's two kinds of Mexico, in my opinion, and lots of the things are very cultural spread are from, I think they are from Central Mexico, at least in the gastronomical sense,
Hmm.
and like all the festivities, because at the end of the day, like all the indigenous um, heritage that we have mainly come from the Aztec Empire and the Mayans, and all these people that were the civilizations that were on the center of and south of Mexico. And there was not a lot of indigenous, I mean, there was zero civilizations here practically in northern Mexico, so we don't have that cultural influence. In music we do have a lot, and in business we have a lot, but cultural, it's all nearly like central and southern Mexico.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool, man. Well, I wish you a good Dia de Muertos and everything, and thank you for coming on the podcast. It was good to catch up, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and if you guys have any questions or something, like, you can reach out to me, and I will answer your questions.
For sure. Do you want to let the people know where they can find you, TikTok or otherwise?
On TikTok, well, it's Jaime Adrian R. If you know Spanish, you will know what I'm saying. If you don't, well, you will not understand what I'm saying, so it's not going to be of use. And on Twitter, I am Jaime. I don't remember my name, like my username, but
Dude, I couldn't
Jaime
even find
Ramos.
it. Did you take it down?
No, no, no. They tried to take it down, but now it's live.
Okay. Okay, I'll find it and put it in the description. Cool, man. Well, thank you for making this happen. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Jaime Ramos, live from Monterrey, Mexico. And yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Jaime, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.